So good news and bad news today. The good news is Peter's back from vacation. Woo! We're excited. The bad news, two pieces of bad news, actually. We are without Jon today, this week. We'll talk about that a little bit more. The other piece of bad news is this disastrous article. It's not journalism necessarily, but this writer, Anya E. R. Prince, wrote a piece for The Atlantic about how she tried to keep her pregnancy secret from online advertisers. And we've talked, I think, a couple times in the past about the case where Target knew that woman was pregnant based on changes in her buying behaviors and sent a coupon to her house that outed the pregnancy to her dad or something like that. We've talked about cases where, or we've seen if you search for pregnancy related questions, you'll start getting targeted with these ads. So she wanted to intentionally keep her pregnancy secret from all online advertisers. Spoiler alert, she couldn't do it. She talked about some of these cases that I just mentioned. She thought she was careful. She used VPN. She didn't do any pregnancy-related searches online. She paid cash when she went and had to make purchases for vitamins and things related to the pregnancy. And then in the end, she says, shortly around the time that she actually had a miscarriage, she started actually seeing her first online ads for pregnancy-related products, which is deeply unfortunate. And Peter and I are going to talk about it on today's Not So Critical Update. Okay.
Sexy.
So,
too far. Too far.
There you go. There you go.
You're going to leave this bit in, aren't you? Right.
Well, we've already been chatting for 45 minutes before we realized, oh, hey, we actually need to record a show today. We should start that. So welcome back, Peter.
Yeah. Thanks. Good to be back. I have to say, it's a real shame. I was kind of hoping that Jon would be around so I could tell you both how much you suck, because I heard all of your comments.
Well, I spent last week defending you and making sure that Jon stayed on track. What do you mean?
Fuck. Oh, mate. I'm keeping notes. So, yeah. And
so you actually do watch the show? Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I find it quite enjoyable, actually. Except for some
I do too.
bits.
I watch them.
Yeah. And
sometimes I argue back with myself, and Amy's like, "Are you arguing with yourself from the past?" I'm like, yeah,
I loved it when Jon was like, Peter would probably explain it in some smart British way. I'm like, what are you saying? What?
Anyway,
you pretending to forget that. Oh, well, there's this guy who used to come on the show every now and again. Like, fuck you. Honestly, I said that's on Discord, but I spent a lot of time laughing at my laptop and shouting, "You dicks!" Like, it was just.
I think that's how a lot of people watch the show.
Yeah, we should.
Most of our audience probably can associate with that.
We should say, get well soon, Jon. He's like super sick. He's literally dying.
Yep.
And
he said we could share that. He gave us a medical release, so we're going to just put his medical records out there.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, as a matter of fact, if you want Jon's medical records, there's a link in the description. We have those all available on our Discord server. So
right next to the Discord link. Yep.
Click the link to our Discord server, and we'll get all that information for you.
And please subscribe.
Oh, anyway. Actually, as a matter of fact, we are this close to 300 subscribers. We need 2 people. So 2 people watching this right now. Click subscribe, help us to get to 300. And if it just so works out that by the time you're watching this video, we're at 300, keep in mind, we're this close to 400 subscribers. So go ahead and click that button and subscribe to the show.
All right.
Really helps us out. All right, anyway, you want to talk about an article?
Yeah, pretty terrible shit, right? It's just so awful. I mean, she didn't even reveal that she had a miscarriage, I think, until the point at which she said, "Oh, and then one day it happened. I saw an ad right about the time we lost the baby." And it was like, oh, double whammy. Like, God damn it.
And she didn't know where she slipped up. She thought she was careful. She thought he covered her bases. She took the steps that I kind of outlined in the introduction. still got figured out.
It baffles me. I mean, I don't know. I know
this is where people come up with the theories of like Alexa's listening in the background and that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's uncanny sometimes. But at first I thought that it was a coincidence because it seemed like she just saw one. But then apparently over the next couple of weeks, they kept on coming these ads for diapers and formula and all that kind of stuff. It's I don't know what to say. This just fucked up, really. There should be some stuff which shouldn't be able to be targeted on, for one thing. Completely insensitive of people advertising these products not to try and, I don't know, maybe they just don't care. Maybe it's just, well, you know, we're going to piss off some people who've had miscarriages, so whatever, just to counter it, factor it into our equations.
Yeah, I think that's miscarriage is much more common, I think, than a lot of, certainly more than I realized. Of known pregnancies, 10 to 20% end in miscarriage. But they think the number is actually much higher than that in terms of like the overall instances of pregnancy that end in miscarriage. And we were chatting about this in the Discord server, link in the description below, join us, about like, it's unfortunate, it sucks, but, you know, my comment is, you know, the ship has sailed on privacy. There's no such thing. There's no, like, that's just how it works. What are you going to do?
Okay. I have a long and lengthy response to that, but I think we've used up most of our time this episode just talking shit.
You want to get into it?
Well, kind of, you know.
There we go. Power through.
Right. Here we go. So I don't think that the privacy as a whole is gone for good. I think that you also claimed on Discord that you thought that there's nothing that can be done at the moment, which I don't think is true. I think some stronger regulations could definitely help a lot, like making it illegal to do certain things. I also think that, you know, there is Article 12 of the UN Fundamental Human Rights is privacy. So the intention is there, but I agree it's very hard, but I think that something we could be done. I've used this example a lot of times, but like, and it's not quite applicable to this, but Amsterdam or Holland as a whole never used to have cycle lanes everywhere. It used to be a metropolitan nightmare full of traffic jams and, you know, cars and pollution and everything. And during the 60s and the 70s, people there were a lot of protests and eventually, slowly, they put more cycle lanes in and everything, and it turned into a place where you could not imagine that it hadn't always been like that. So I think it's possible to achieve these difficult things if there's enough effort put into it. The other thing is, I kind of agree with you in some respects. I think that there's always going to be this element of things that you do that you don't recognize are being watched by other people. That's never really private in the first place. And in real life, just walking down the street, there's people see you and they see what you're doing. And oh God. Sorry, I just froze there for a second. And that kind of level of privacy invasion, I think, is just I'm really lagging here, I think. Sorry.
You look okay. Keep going.
Okay. So yeah, that kind of level of privacy invasion is always going to be there. You know, the example of the guy in the corner shop who offers you your bottle of milk that you go in to buy every Friday, you know, that could be considered privacy invasion, but all he's doing is just recognizing a pattern that he's seen. And it's, you know, so
specifically what I said is I don't think anything meaningful can be done. And I say that because the governments general, I mean, and you always cite the European Union and the like you just mentioned, the UN, like those aren't actually governments. The problem is that the governments of the individual countries are owned as much by the corporations as everybody else, and the corporations will win. The comment I made is that we need a fundamental revolution in capitalism before anything meaningful can be done on privacy.
Right. Well, you know, when we used to have a different intro for anybody who's new to the show. At the beginning, where it put our faces on the screen, we used to have little subtitles underneath. Mine was like Peter, the privacy guy, and John, the security guy, and Mike, The Fatalist, and I think it really kind of maybe we should put those subtitles back in because that really feels like where you're coming from right now.
Well,
it's the old Mike.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. I believe that very deeply. But I was thinking about and we've actually brought this example up before. The other side of every future is a dystopian nightmare. There is the example of the Star Trek version of the future where people have kind of figured these things out. So is it possible? Yes. But if you look at Star Trek, it's kind of a socialist dreamland. And there's not really, as far as I can tell, this sense of capitalism. I guess I don't know what capitalism looks like in that future, but I think that's the point we would have to get to, because there's so much profit motive in violating privacy. That's what's going to happen.
Let's say that we cold fusion became a thing, so we fixed the problem of energy, which I think is responsible for a lot of the capitalism in the world.
We've talked about this before too, but
yeah, what's left?
Well, so what we talked about was that somebody is going to own that technology, and will be just the same monopolies there are now.
Yeah, true.
Eventually 50, 100, 200 years from now, if the planet still exists, sure, but not in our lifetimes.
The show I was watching where the aliens come to Earth. Oh, A Man Who Fell to Earth. That's what it's all about. It's a guy who comes to Earth and he's got this technology for fusion generator, I think it is, and he's basically, there's a character in it who is a kind of a risk assessment guy, and he's like, it was suggested at one point, we should just release this to humanity and tell everybody, give this technology to everybody. And he's like, no, you cannot do that. No, do not do that, because first of all, the Saudis, all their entire financial foundation will fall apart, and then if they don't have oil to fall back on, then who's going to stop them, invading other countries to get what they want? Then the markets will collapse, and there'll be global poverty, and there'll be mass riots, and there'll be he just listed out all the different things that would happen. I think he was probably exaggerating a bit, but a lot of that shit could maybe happen, if suddenly this technology appeared from nowhere.
So spoiler alert.
Yeah. Sorry, it was just that one bit. I won't tell you what happens in the actual story.
I haven't seen it. I might actually go watch it now. That does sound interesting.
It's pretty good. It's worth watching.
So yeah, incredibly unfortunate, heartbreaking for this woman.
Yeah.
It's from an interesting, curious, what she leaked or how they figured it out. Maybe more than interesting, maybe sinister. Who even knows? But we'll have to see.
And if anybody has any theories on how the the systems were able to figure it out, I'd love to know. I've got one or two, but be curious.
You can either leave it in the comments while you're hitting the subscribe button, or come over to the Discord server and we'll talk about it there.
Did we mention Discord already? I think we should probably just hammer that home a little bit more.
Discord.